Welcome to the Virtual Excellence Show, where we get insights from experts and pioneers and leaders and visionaries into how to be excellent in the virtual world that we are increasingly living in today. Today, we have a guest of Rachel Happe, who has been deep experience across these worlds, deep expert in communities. And today, we have Rachel Happe, who will be talking to us about the state of communities in 2020. Welcome to the show, Rachel.
Thank you, Ross. It's great to be here. Great to reconnect with you.
Absolutely. So the state of communities, and so I remember back from, well, it's not just the 90s, even the 80s, we had communities, people connecting, people creating value for each other. And it's evolved over time. And then 2020 has changed a lot. I'd love to just hear your reflections on how communities have been shifting during this year.
It's interesting where you start, because there's so much context that you could start with, which is, I believe communities have always been critical to help individuals thrive. Meaning I don't want to say we are our communities, but our expectations are made by the communities around us. And historically, that's been very implicit because our communities have just been there. Moving online, we get more choice. We get to choose which communities we spend our time in. We don't just get plopped in the middle of one at birth and we stay there. So that's created some interesting things, which is it's fragmented us in some ways, or in many ways. I used to keynote, or I guess I still do, but about a decade ago, I used to have a slide that said the perfect storm is coming. And I went back and found it again. And I was like, I just really need to cross out is coming with is here. The perfect storm is here. We've got political, economic instability, social instability, like everything is changing, like, right? And people don't really thrive on uncertainty. We need certainty to ground us, to remove our anxiety, to make us feel confident and able to move forward. Social media is definitely not a community. Right? Like it's us throwing mud at each other a lot of the time. And the environment, the business environment, used to be certain for 50 some odd years, at least. It was relatively certain, meaning you could predictably say, I'll do some customer research, then I'll go away for a couple of years, develop a product, and the market will still be ready for that product when I come out. Now, all bets are off, right? COVID hit the US in a month. I mean, I think some people knew about it before that, but we didn't really see so that changed everything, pivoted the entire economy in a month. How do you plan for that? You don't plan for the fires that we're experiencing in California, right? There's all these crises that are coming wave after wave. And yet we're stuck in a business environment where people are like, well, we're going to go in a back room and we're going to think about this and we're going to get a lot of the best minds in the world here. And then we're going to plan and we're going to create this project plan and it's going to be perfect. It's going to be great. Well, while you're planning, a whole different crisis has hit and now you're irrelevant, right? And so that model and framework doesn't work. At the same time, technology has gotten so advanced that anything that's standardized is done by an algorithm or a bot. So people are having that crisis of meaning, like, what's our role here? And the way the economy has worked has always taught us to look and find the answer in the future as our guide to kind of meaning and confidence. And that no longer exists for us. And so the people that I see doing much better are the people who get their certainty from who they are and the community they exist in and what that community values. So if I really know who I am, what my community prioritizes in terms of values, when change happens, I can react like that. I know the answer without
so community's identity.
Yeah, yes. Like it's your values, it's your behavior, it's your identity, it's what you will accept and not accept as part of that boundary. And that has always been with us. Either, and really what online does that we don't have offline is it makes it brutally explicit. You can't just feel your way through it. You have to consciously say it's a Zoom meeting in an office that you've lifted and shifted. People forget to have the hallway conversation. And then they wonder why people don't feel as connected. I'm like, well, you forgot to add a little social time. And like, you need to warm people up before you like put them on the hot seat and ask them to make a decision. So we really have to think through some of those things very explicitly. And it's not something we're used to doing. But that's what I'm seeing a lot in this virtual world, and the awareness that we need to shift our governance to that kind of model has grown quite a bit over the last few years.
So shifting governance to this community frame?
Mm-hmm. Which is a lot more agile, a lot more decentralized. It pushes leadership, which to me, leadership isn't a role, it's a behavior. So it empowers everyone in the community to act as a leader rather than centralizing those leadership behaviors. And so you can act and adapt much more rapidly to the things that are happening at the edges, and everyone stays aligned by the shared purpose and value that you've all agreed you care about. And that creates this gravity or this pull that is what causes the alignment versus control, right? So we're moving from a top-down cage to okay, let's build a structure that is more like a trellis in a garden. We're not gonna control the flower and tell it exactly where to grow, but we're gonna give it support so that it like has an easier time growing this direction.
So in your State of Community Report 2020, you make the distinction between internal and external communities. And that's obviously a fundamental one. So the internal community is those who are connecting and engaging inside the organization. That really frames around what is an organization today, or what it could be or should be, and arguably the future of work in organizations. And I've long said that community is the future of business, and that in the sense of you're no longer hub and spoke selling to a lot of individuals or companies. You are becoming part of an ecosystem of a community, but starting with that internal community. So looking at an organization as a community, I mean, it always is to whatever degree. So what are things today, as we move to a virtual world, that leaders should be doing to be a community as an organization?
So the biggest thing is on the strategic side, moving from what we think of as a traditional strategy that's very focused on the organization and its shareholders or its primary leadership to a shared purpose, shared value model, which means you need to create a win-win-win for every constituent in the ecosystem, which is a little, it's actually not that complicated, but you have to actually, instead of thinking of the employee experience or the customer experience, you have to think what gives them ROI, right? If we're constantly giving them more than they're contributing, they're going to stay and come back again and again and again. But it has to be meaningful. So if I was a board or a senior executive team, I would be looking at mission statements, strategies, and kind of all of our documentation and saying, is this a statement that would entice an employee to work here if they didn't get a salary, or excite them above and beyond a salary, I guess is a better way to say it, right? Like, is this organization that somebody says, yes, I want to have that impact in the world, and if I can do that by my work, I am going to choose that one every time over this other option that may even pay more. One of the best compliments you can get as a leader is people choosing your organization over another. And we have a part-time employee on our team who chose to stay with us even though she was headhunted away, because she gets flexibility and she gets to work the way she wants to on the projects she wants to, and she gets to do the other things that are important to her in her life on the side, and she has time for that. And that matters to her. That's what matters to her. And she knows if you go into a consulting organization or whatever, you're going to work 80 hours a week. They own your time. That doesn't drive my passion.
So, of course, some organizations have had significant virtual elements before. Many have been thrust into it, sometimes kicking and screaming. And there's many, so started with that frame around being able to make people part of that. So there are many elements. So you talked about governance. There's a lot of, I suppose, more tactical things. And so this shift of being able to view and to bring to life this idea of the organization as a community. I mean, what does that journey look like? And of course, that's different for every organization, but what's that path where you can start to become more a true community, where people feel I am part of something bigger than me and I'm not just an employee? How does that happen? Or perhaps any examples you've seen?
Yeah, at a fundamental level, it goes back to a little bit of what I was saying, but everything we're used to in the business world is controlling and somewhat coercive, meaning it's using extrinsic motivators to get people to do things. And extrinsic motivators are extractive, meaning they're juicing the system for short-term gain, but they're not actually sustainable. So they're actually very expensive. So if I can engage your intrinsic motivators, which takes a lot more work up front, it's much, much more sustainable ongoing. That shift, the biggest struggle there is a mindset shift between, if I just entice them with all of these bells and whistles, I can capture their time and their energy, to how can I inspire them? How can I engage them? How can I generate something meaningful for them on a regular basis and to get something I want at the same time? And that mindset shift is really, really tough for people, because our entire educational system, our entire work structures, all of that governance is set up around, I like to say diversity is a bug, not a feature. And diversity needs to be a feature, not a bug. And so hiring, even the very okay, we put together a job description and we want to fill this box. And when we interview you, we're going to ask you about all your experience in this box. And all your experience outside the box, we don't care about. And the more experience you have in this box, the more we want you. Whereas the employee is thinking, I've had a lot of experience in this box and I'd really like to explore over there, but I don't really have experience to show for it, right? So you can kind of flip that. And I see this in education. People think it's the content that matters. And I'm like, no, it's the motivation that matters. If you are motivated, you can figure out all the content, all the logistics. If you're curious, you will figure it out. And motivated, you'll figure it out. And we don't even try to motivate people intrinsically. It doesn't even occur to us to try. And I think that is the root cause of a lot of, honestly, a lot of loneliness and abuse in our societies.
So let's say a leader suddenly wakes up and says, okay, I understand now. I realize we need to be building a community, one where people have an identity and are aligned and engaged, and they are creating value together and trying to create value together. So how would you advise them? What's the things they do on that journey to be able to shift to that?
Yeah, we start with that strategy piece and say, how can we define the shared purpose and shared value? And then we look at behaviors and say, what are the engagement behaviors that if we could motivate people towards these would generate the shared value that would make this community sustainable and bring them back again and again and again. And okay, if those three key behaviors are what will generate this value, how can we align metrics and infrastructure and management and guidelines and content and programming to create journeys that make those three behaviors the easiest things to do, the most rewarded things to do, and the things that we measure. And so it really falls out very simply from that shared purpose and shared value. The challenge that we have, and again, it's both a mental mind shift and a really operational challenge, is because we think transactionally, all of our databases and our processes are set up around the content object or the transaction. And that goes all the way down to database architectures. But what I really want to see is, how did Ross get to this point? Meaning, what are the 20 things he did and the 50 people he talked to get this outcome? Because he gets this outcome better than everybody else. And I want to analyze what he does so that I can coach other people to do it the same way. When we look at transactions in our database, it's all lagging indicators. We look back and say, oh, we got to the endpoint. We got more input. And but it doesn't help us identify where the behaviors break and where people went, didn't start correctly. And so we've been working with the clients to develop dashboards around these behaviors for a while, and it was confusing me because they were having a very hard time doing it, and I was like, I don't understand why this is so hard. And then I finally figured out it's the database. It's literally the join code in the database is the content object or the transaction, not the person. And so the person is buried in one data table, and that's it. And so at scale, it seizes up your database because it can't easily. So the clients we've had that do it the best dump all the data out in a data lake, re-architect the whole thing, and now they can get that data. But that's a pretty expensive lift. That you have to be a big company with a lot of analytics skill to do that. And so I think there needs to be a real shift in how we think of analytics. It's all driven by analytics at the end, meaning if we can't report it, we can't see it. Behavior is also what creates culture, right? So we developed this engagement framework that really distinguishes between different types of engagement. And if you measure the breadth and depth of each category of engagement, you can see whether your culture is opening up or getting more anxious and closed over time. So if you look month over month, are people asking more questions? Are they exploring more together? That means they're more comfortable. That means they're more open. That means they're more direct. That's a great thing because it means they can operate faster. There's not as much politicking and fear of failure or fear of retribution or fear of some kind of extrinsic backlash. So That's both simple and a very complicated answer.
So let's shift to the external communities. This idea of community is the future of business. Again, if a leader suddenly says, "Oh, right, okay, I'm not just selling to whoever's going to buy something, but I'm looking to engage a community that we can create value together with." So, what's that journey? I suppose, what is the state of the nation today? Because that is evolving very fast with not just different tools to support that, but also different behaviors. Mm-hmm. So where are we in terms of what is effective external engagement in communities or supporting or driving communities?
So external communities are much more mature. They've been around longer. And because they've been around longer, people have learned more, but they also have another critical attribute, which is they're closer to revenue and costs. So it's easier to attribute impact to the community. And customer communities really started in customer support, and they really started pretty transactionally, actually. And it was basically tech communities. I just need an answer, come in, get an answer, get out. I wouldn't even really call it a community because people didn't have relationships as such. They were coming in to get an answer. And a lot of the work we've done with some of our external partners is how can we backtrack and get different engagement behavior happening? Because unless there's experts sharing expertise, unless they're learning something. So Salesforce has done a great job of combining learning, certification, and community all together so that they're providing ROI for their customers who are getting certified and now can sell more services. That's tangible livelihood for people. That's a great example. But as they've matured, marketing gets involved because, all of a sudden it's open to SEO and you've got tens of thousands of incoming links and the marketing team says, hey, wait a second, we don't control this. What's going on over there? And that has been an education journey. But I think what we're seeing on the external side is communities are finally seen kind of as the core experience layer of customer experience, meaning it's the hub or the ombuds location for customers to find whatever they need there. And advocacy and customer support are done by the same people. So why fragment them by channel? And so a lot of the work that's being done is ecosystem design. So how do the social channels and the community and the knowledge base and the marketing initiatives all interplay on the community so that multiple use cases and multiple workflows can all be done in the same place and customized somewhat for the individual that's coming in. If I'm only technical, I'm really still only there for technical answers, for example. So they're getting much more complex and more robust. And what we're actually seeing, which is a long time coming, but the advanced external communities are growing their community teams quite rapidly because they're finding as they add community team members, the profitability of each hire goes up, meaning they get more back for running leadership programs and other programming and events and learning and development and this, that, and other things. So that's a really great piece of data to see, because for a long time, community teams have just been starved. They haven't been able to show their value because there's not enough of them.
So what are examples you point to of organizations that have developed communities, true communities, or where communities are part of their business model to help people understand some of the potential value here?
Oh my gosh. I mean, we worked with CA for a long time, their communities, and the work that this guy JJ and Sam did there was just phenomenal, because they took 300 to 400 disparate user groups, online forums, product groups, etc., and streamlined them into an ecosystem of about 40 communities, and really added some operational discipline to them. And it was really impressive. And they integrated their data on the back end with the CRM systems. And so they had a complete 360-degree view of the customer. Another example of a huge customer ecosystem is this company called Esri, which is geographical data that feeds Google Maps all the geolocation services. So it's a B2B company, so the audience may or may not have heard of them, but they have a really robust community of hundreds and hundreds of sub-communities around industries, around use cases, around profile type, meaning role type. So they have business users and technical users, and that's another great example. We've worked with Sienna over the years. They have a great community. Autodesk, Adobe, another one of the A's. So the nice thing is there's so many right now. Like, it's not like 10 years ago where you're like, what are the 4 I can name that are doing really well? I talked to someone today, actually, who lives in Spain, in Barcelona, who's running a consumer community. And one of the exciting things about that is it's a new community. It's only been around for 2 years. But because he had experience, he got in there and he got them to invest in all the operational discipline to really make the communities hum. And in 2 years, he has amazing value to show for it. And one of the problems has always been that companies have kind of said, oh, well, we kind of think communities might be interesting. We'll give you a little money to go play. And then they spend the next 2 to 5 to more years never kind of getting over the hump of the investment with one community manager. And they just can't, they never invest enough to really see the hockey stick of value accrue. And, they kind of get stuck in that gap.
So you said, now is the perfect storm when we're starting to see the conditions, I suppose, for understanding of communities, internal communities and external communities, and I suppose more engagement because people are being forced into these virtual spaces. So where do we go from here? What are the priorities? What are the opportunities that you see from here in terms of internal, external, or other communities for organizations?
Yeah, well, so it's ironic because Jive used to have a platform that supported both internal and external communities. And it got broken up right when I think the market was a little more ready for that. And the problem is it creates, not having shared infrastructure creates an artificial barrier between your customers and your employees. And what's happening is those are merging, meaning you're seeing customers work with employees on customer communities around product innovation. And so then you can say, okay, well, what's a customer and what's an employee and who's developing the value here? So everything's blurring a little bit. And we don't have the infrastructure there. And one of the biggest opportunities on the infrastructure side is this ecosystem design. There is no platform right now where you can create the city plan of New York and kind of say, well, if you're in the park, here's how you get to the museums, and here's how you might get to restaurants, and here's the entertainment district, and here, there's no way to connect communities to each other in a structure that says, okay, they share members, or one's a subset of another, or we're going to share some content, but not all. There's a lot of governance that needs to be built around that piece of it. that also allows the managers of those communities to make that determination. Meaning, I don't need God on high telling me how to govern my two communities. I think we can sort it out. We just need the tools to decide how we want to play together.
Yes, and that actually reminds me of Burning Man this year, which was virtual with a whole bunch of different spaces, but some of them were these things where you had this, I suppose, ways of, either Ursat's physical position or ways to be able to move around and to be able to join different groups. And I think these are the metaphors we're exploring, which could have a lot of value in communities of all kinds.
Yeah, well, Jane Jacobs is amazingly relevant. She's somebody who wrote about New York City and busy sidewalks and why that mattered. So some of that early city planning is very relevant. There's a great article actually about Burning Man and the structure of its streets and why that structure enables the engagement that it does. Fascinating.
Yeah, and as we move more into VR and digital twins of the worlds and so on, these can potentially provide a space where we can have these ways of mapping or interacting, which is beyond a threaded discussion.
Yeah, like what we do today is like we help clients some of the time manually map all of those hundreds of spaces. But, as soon as it's done, it changes tomorrow. And so you have to audit it every once in a while and like re-sort it out without much help. So, that's what I would like to see on the infrastructure side.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your insights, Rachel. Community is more relevant than ever and will continue to be, I think, at the heart of organizations and business moving forward. So where should people go to find out more about your work?
Well, I'm a Twitter holic maybe, but I'm RHAPPE on Twitter. Our URL is just communityroundtable.com, one word. And there's a lot of information and free resources on that site. Our report is free, and it's our 11th report. So there's a wealth of data in that report if you're thinking about communities, if you're trying to justify them, if you're trying to educate stakeholders. It's a great resource.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being on the show, Rachel.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure. So please tune in for other episodes, same time each week, and a whole lot of other resources as well. You can please like the show if you've liked it, subscribe if you'd like to hear more of this kind of content from experts on how to be excellent in virtual worlds. It's been a pleasure having you on your show. Thanks, and have a wonderful day.